This is the best team for game week 33, and in this video I'm going to explain why. I'm Sakafousi, your personal data analyst, and this video won't be one of the usual ones where we look at the best players for the next 5 game weeks, like we do every week, because a very special situation is coming up. We have game week 32 ahead of us, and immediately after that comes game week 33, which is a big double game week where 6 teams will have 2 matches. Then, right after that, in game week 34, those same 6 teams will have a blank. This period is the best opportunity we have during the season to skyrocket in the rankings and in our mini leagues. But it's also the period that requires the most caution, so we don't end up doing the exact opposite. That's why in this video we'll focus on the strategy we can follow for the upcoming double and blank game weeks. And we will also look at the best players for the upcoming double game week. First of all, let's take a quick look at the overall picture of teams and players as it has developed over the first 31 game weeks. At the team level, in this table we can see that the expected goals scored and conceded by teams so far in the Premier League. The farther to the right a team is, the better they have performed offensively. And we can see that farthest to the right are Arsenal, Manchester City and Chelsea. On the other hand, the higher a team is on this chart, the better they have performed defensively. And we can clearly see that at the very top, by quite a large margin, is Arsenal. We'll use these stats to estimate fixture difficulty in the upcoming matches, starting with team defenses and their chances of keeping a clean sheet over the next 3 crucial game weeks. Looking at the overall clean sheet probabilities up to game week 34, we see that Arsenal rank first with an expected 1.13 clean sheets from game week 32 to game week 34. Focusing on game week 32, which is the next coming up, we see that Arsenal, Brighton and West Ham are the teams with the highest probability of keeping a clean sheet. Now, in the crucial game week 33, where we have double fixtures, the standout teams are Manchester City and Leeds United. Manchester City face Arsenal and Burnley, while Leeds face Wolves and Bournemouth. These two teams have 71 and 69% probability respectively of keeping at least 1 clean sheet, and of course there is also a realistic chance they will keep 2 of them. So this is something we should definitely keep in mind later when we look for the best defenders for the double game week. We will certainly be taking a close look at defenders from Manchester City and Leeds. As for game week 34, where some teams won't have a fixture, the team with the highest clean sheet probability is once again Arsenal, who play at home against Newcastle United and have 43% chance of keeping a clean sheet. Now, let's take a look at the attacking side of fixture difficulty. We can see that overall for the upcoming game weeks, Brighton are the team facing the easiest defenses with a difficulty coefficient of 1.64. That means they are expected to score 64% more goals in their upcoming matches, although this does not take into account their blank in game week 34. So if we are looking for a team over the next 2 game weeks, 32 and 33, Brighton are the ones with the most favourable fixtures, facing Chelsea, Tottenham, across the matches in these 2 game weeks. In game week 32, Brighton again have the easiest fixture, playing away against Burnley with a coefficient of 1.27. That means they are expected to score 27% more goals than usual. In double game week 33, we see that all teams with double fixtures have fairly similar difficulty ratings. The easiest schedule belongs to Leeds United, who face Wolves and Bournemouth with a coefficient of 2.09. In other words, if Leeds would normally score 1 goal in a typical game week, they are expected to score around 2.09 goals in that double game week. Finally, looking at game week 34, the easiest attacking fixtures belong to Sunderland, who play at home against Nottingham Forest with a difficulty coefficient of 1.14. Let's now take a look at individual player stats, starting with the goalkeepers. In this chart, we see saves and expected goals conceded per 90 minutes. Martin Dubravka ranks first in saves with almost 4 saves per 90 minutes, while David Raya has conceded the fewest expected goals at around 0.7 expected goal per match. Moving on to the defenders, the further to the right a player is on this chart, the more attacking threat they offer in terms of expected goals and expected assists so far in the league. We can see that the furthest right is Daniel Munoz from Crystal Palace. The lower a defender is on this chart, the fewer expected goals they concede, and that's why we see all the defenders from Arsenal significantly ahead of the rest. Defenders marked with a green dot are those with more than 10 defensive contributions per match. Now on to midfielders. The numbers here are not season average because form plays a huge role for midfielders, so what we're seeing is a combination of season data and recent form. Farthest to the right is Anthony Gordon of Newcastle, meaning he currently has the highest expected goals at almost 0.5 per 90 minutes. Also ranking highly in expected goals are Sarr from Crystal Palace, Semenyo, Cole Palmer, and midfielders shown in bold are also their team's penalty takers. The higher a player is on this chart, the more expected assists they have, and we can see clearly that Bruno Fernandes is by far the highest. Finally, the forwards, again taking form into account, farthest to the right is João Pedro with nearly 0.7 expected goals per match, while second is in expected goals is Erling Haaland with just under 0.6. Once again, players shown in bold are their team's penalty takers. So, for example, if Haaland has 0.6 expected goals per game, that's without penalties. If we also consider penalties, this is higher. And now we move on to the most important table of this video. I want you to pause the video here and take a screenshot of this table because it's the most useful resource you'll need to plan your team, your transfers and your overall strategy for the next 3 crucial game weeks. In this table, we see the best players based on their expected points for Double Gameweek 33. These are the top 20 players, and I've also included 4 additional players, the 4 best ones who do not have a Double Gameweek, as a benchmark, so we can understand the difference between players with and without a double. Let's take Erling Haaland as an example, who has the highest expected points for Double Gameweek 33. As you can see, starting from the first column, he is a forward playing for Manchester City. His expected minutes per match are 83. So far this season, he has 0.67 expected goals per 90 minutes, while based on recent form, his XG is 0.41. So, if we combine season data with form, we expect Haaland to score somewhere between 0.41 and 0.67 goals at the upcoming matches. In terms of assists, Haaland isn't particularly known for them. He had just 0.07 expected assists per 90 over the season and 0.09 based on recent form, both very low. His defensive contributions are 3.2 per match, which is not particularly relevant when we're talking about a forward. He's also his team penalty taker. His expected points for Game Week 32 are 5.7, while for Double Game Week 33 they rise to 11.2. For reference, forwards are highlighted in purple, midfielders in blue and defenders in green. So these are the best players for Game Week 33. And this is the table we should use as the foundation for building our strategy. So, what is the optimal strategy to navigate these crucial game weeks? First of all, I need to clarify that this depends heavily on your team. Who you currently own, how many free transfers you have saved, and how many chips you still have available. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution. There are 3 main strategies though. Let's start by analyzing the strategies one by one, beginning with the most popular one that I actually disagree and would recommend avoiding. This is the strategy of using the wildcard in Game Week 32 right now in order to load up on players who have a double in Game Week 33 and then play bench boost in the same Game Week 33 in the Double Game Week. On the one hand, this strategy gives you the best possible bench boost you can achieve all season. You would have 4 bench players who all have a double game week, which is theoretically optimal. As we clearly saw in the table, even double game week players who are not top tier, like Van Hecke or Hill, have higher expected points than top single game week players like Anthony Gordon or Bruno Fernandes. However, the difference is only about 2 or 3 points per player. So, by using this strategy, you gain roughly 2 to 3 extra points per bench player, which translates to around 10 or 15 points in total from the bench boost compared to using the bench boost on a normal game week. So, what's the problem? If we use the wildcard right now in game week 32, we'll be forced to pick players who are great for double game week 33, but not nearly as good for game week 32 itself. As a result, we might gain 10 or 15 extra points from the bench boost in game week 33, but at the same time, we will likely lose a similar number of points in game week 32 because our team will be far from optimal. If the optimal team for game week 33 is the one we saw earlier on the video, how good is that same team for game week 32? In reality, it's quite a poor team for game week 32 and would fall behind unnecessarily by sacrificing points now just to gain them later. But it gets worse. Not only we lack an optimal team in game week 32, but at the same time, the same issue continues after game week 33. Of course, if we follow this strategy, we'll have to play a free hit on game week 34. There's no other way to make this strategy work, of course. But from game week 35 onwards, we will be stuck with a squad built for game week 33, which is far from optimal for the following weeks. So overall, I believe that using the wildcard in game week 32 is not the optimal strategy. A different strategy that could work quite well depending on your team is to rely on your free transfers for game week 33, especially if you manage to save several of them and already own multiple players with a double game week. With this approach, you won't have the absolute optimal team for the double game week, but you will still have a strong enough squad and you can play your bench boost. Then, in game week 34, you can use your free hit. After that, in game week 35, when your squad is no longer ideal, you will still have your wildcard available. You can then use it to rebuild your team and create the best possible squad for the final stretch of the season. Finally, another possible strategy, and actually the one I will personally follow because given my current squad it suits me best, is to use the free hit in game week 33. This means building the optimal team purely for game week 33 and then in game week 34 relying on my free transfers, since my team already includes several players who have a fixture that week. I already have a full starting 11 for game week 34 and 3 free transfers available right now. With this strategy, we maximize our points in game week 33 by using the free hit. We also have a complete team for game week 34. The only downside is that we won't use bench boost in double game week 33. Instead, we will save it for later. In game week 35, we can then use the wildcard to restructure our squad for the final 3 game weeks and play the bench boost in one of those. Of course, the bench boost we use later won't be as strong as the one someone might get by following the first strategy. I mean the strategy with wildcarding in game week 32. But how much worse will it really be? 10 points? 15 points? It's unlikely to be more than this. Let's say it's 15 points, worst case scenario. We will have a better team than them in game week 32 and again from game week 35 until the end. So overall, I believe the last 2 strategies we discussed are the best ones. the strategies with the wildcard on game week 35. Either free hit in game week 33, then free transfers in game week 34 and wildcard game week 35, or free transfers game week 33, followed by free hit on game week 34 and again wildcard in game week 35. Which one you choose depends on your current squad. If your team is already close to optimal for game week 33, then use your free transfers there. If instead your team is closer to the optimal for game week 34, then use the free hit in game week 33. I hope this video helped you. Take care, good luck and lots of green arrows.